Hello and welcome to Best of the Rest. Normally, this is a show where we take a second look at movies that were poorly received upon release and challenge ourselves to only talk about the things we like and what the movie does well. But this is a bonus episode about the films of M Night Shyamalan. My name is Chris Logan, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Andrew Williams. All right. You ready to talk some M Night, Andrew?
Yeah, it's going to be a first time for us. We've not spoken about this man before.
We definitely haven't been doing it all month. We definitely don't have like 8 recorded hours about this man's work. But that's the thing. We've been covering him all month long. We had an M Night Shyamalan month, and I really enjoyed revisiting this filmography, the highs and the lows. Especially, we ended with Glass. We ended talking about this man's sort of comeback, his resurrection. Really got me in the mood to keep watching M. Night movies, which means I want to keep talking about M. Night movies. So that's what we're doing today. Talking about his entire filmography. Obviously, 4 of these movies have their own episode of Best of the Rest. Go back and listen if you haven't already. But we're going to try to fill in the gaps. Cover a few other movies of his. Talk about some Mark Strong best scenes and what we think about it overall. And at the end of this thing, Andrew, I think we're going to be able to rank the films of M. Night Shyamalan. Something we don't do on this podcast very often, but I think this man's filmography is just ripe for the ranking. You know what I mean?
I think so. There's going to be some layups, I think, but there's going to be some nitty-gritty to get in there too. And I am excited to figure that out.
I think there's no way we have the same ranking at the end. So I'm just very curious where it's going to differ.
I am too, because I think there's some that you're going to put a little bit higher than me. I think the bottom might be the same, but
maybe.
We'll
What would you say at this point, the year of our Lord, 2024? What's your overall thoughts on M. Night Shyamalan? He has a new movie coming out this year in August. I think we know nothing about it, except it's called Trap, and it's continuing the Josh Hartnett Renaissance.
The Hartnett-essence.
Are you hyped? Are you interested? We'll wait and see what the critics say. What are your thoughts on a new M. Night Shyamalan movie now?
I'm going to see it. I saw Old, I saw Knock at the Cabin. So, I saw Glass, I saw Split. So I've seen most of his recent filmography. So I'm definitely going to go see it. And during the
theaters,
episode,
you saw all those in theaters?
Yeah. Split was the one I didn't see opening weekend or anything. I kind of waited and then heard about the word of mouth and was like, oh, let's check that out. And then everything since then, Glass, Old, Knock at the Cabin, I have seen in theaters. Knock at the Cabin, I did see opening weekend. Old, I don't think I did. I know I did for Glass. Glass was their opening weekend. I was pretty hyped. I'll be there probably opening weekend for Trap. We said we don't know much about it. And I kind of said it during the episodes, but I'm just kind of glad he's out there doing his thing. Does it always work for me? No. But I'm always going to be interested because largely he's somebody putting out original concepts into the world in an era where people are just increasingly lamenting that nobody's doing original work anymore, that everything's IP and intellectual property. Anyone,
our listeners know they get it. They're hip to it.
I'm just giving them the benefit of the doubt. I don't want anyone to feel awkward. It's an inclusive podcast. But largely, I'm excited to see what he does. Like I said, I by no means am a vehement defender. I don't watch his movies and then be like, anyone who thinks differently just doesn't get it. But I'm glad he's out there, and I'm always going to give him a shot. I think sometimes he hits, and when he hits, it's usually widely pretty good. When he misses, it can be pretty rough. So I'm not gonna, but I'm always gonna go see it. I'm not gonna write the man off, but I am glad he's out there doing his thing, and that's pretty much how I widely feel about it.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm pretty similar. I am interested at this point to see the new M. Night Shyamalan. I want to see what stories he thinks are worth telling now. He's got my confidence back. Maybe not an all-time high, but yeah, I'm at the very least interested in what he's going to say. I have not seen an M. Night Shyamalan movie in theaters in a long time, since The Visit. Now, some of these old was COVID, I think. Knock at the Cabin. I had a baby at home and tried to see it. It's not necessarily because M Night's name was attached to it, but I didn't see him right away. But I will definitely make it a point to check out this. I want to see a trailer. His trailers are usually pretty good. Like, they tell you nothing. Yeah. It's just this ominous feeling, or they present the concept. Like, I remember that trailer. I think it was a Super Bowl premiere. You get old on this beach, and it's like all you knew about it. Yeah, so I'm excited to see what Chap is about. Excited to see the movie come August. But hey, let's dive in to this man's filmography. There's a few asterisks to this conversation, and here's the first one. We're not going to talk about Praying with Anger? Is that like technically his first movie? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, well, it's like a short film. I don't think it's an actual like genuine like.
It's basically a student movie. I haven't seen it. I assume you haven't seen it. That's not what we're going to talk about. No, we're also not going to talk about Wide Awake, as we said multiple times this month. Haven't seen it. Not that interested in seeing it. I don't know. If you think it's good, you think I'm making a mistake, let me know. I need to go back and watch Wide Awake, but we haven't seen it. We won't be ranking it or discussing it.
We're talking about the movies after he became M Night Shyamalan, because he wasn't before.
Right.
Before the day The Sixth Sense came out, he was not M Night Shyamalan. Yeah.
So that's where we start. The Sixth Sense. Andrew, pretty good movie. You've seen this, right? Heard of this? Seen this?
Yeah.
All right. I remember seeing this in theaters. I remember the hype. I don't know if maybe younger people, Zoomers, people that weren't of a certain age at the time, really understand how big this movie was. It was a cultural phenomenon in a way that movies rarely are these days.
Man, big time.
It was like not a comeback for Bruce Willis per se. Well, I mean, kind of was. It kind of was. It was, it's not like John Travolta in Pulp Fiction. Not that extreme, but it was. He had a few stinkers throughout the 90s, and it's kind of put him back up there. So that was a big deal. Haley Joel Osment, and of course, just the twist of the movie. Like, I saw this in theaters, not opening weekend.
Man, I disagree on Bruce Willis. Like, you got Fifth Element in 97, you got Armageddon in 98. He was doing just fine.
Armageddon's pretty fair. Is Fifth Element, how big was that movie? Was that an actual hit? I feel like that was like a VHS home video hit.
I mean, 90 million made 265. I mean, it was...
Okay, fair. You know what, Andrew?
Good enough.
I was wrong. I'm going to admit that on this podcast. I won't even edit it out. But hey, the twist of the movie. That was the thing. And I didn't see it opening weekend, but I think my dad took me to see it. And I remember him saying this so clearly before we went. He's like, yeah, I've heard the ending's real good. He's like, a coworker told me when the ring hits the floor. And he's like, that's all I know. Like, I don't know what that means. And I saw this movie. Was blown away by the twist. The ring hits the floor. That's when you... I guess I'm so used to talking around spoilers. I guess we're going to spoil all these movies, but The Sixth Sense, that's when you realize Bruce Willis has been dead the whole time. His wife has his wedding ring as she's asleep. She drops it. He looks at his hand. He doesn't have his wedding ring, and we get all the big reveal. He's been dead the whole time. Not only does this movie have a twist ending, but it's also really good. It's not...
Yes.
I mean, it's kind of defined by its twist, but there's a lot more meat on the bone than just the twist. It feels silly to start praising this movie now because it's been praised for the past 25 years, but it's very good. Before we start talking, even sniffing around this Mark Strong Award, Andrew, any overall thoughts on The Sixth Sense?
I didn't see it in theaters. I just remember hearing the hype. So I remember my family rented it and we watched it. And I remember, God, we were at church or something. And like we mentioned,
You watched it at church?
No. We were at church after watching it.
Okay.
But that's the scope of this movie. We were just like, we mentioned, So we like rented some movies. I mentioned, we got to take Sixth Sense back there or something. And these people like turned around and they were like, oh my God, right? And like that, like, middle-aged older Americans were like blown away by Sixth Sense. Like it really did like permeate into the culture in a huge way. And like it was the second highest grossing film of 1999. Like the only thing that beat it was Star Wars Episode 1. It outdid everything else. Toy Story 2, The Matrix. Holy, there's some weird stuff here. Tarzan, The Mummy. Man, that 99 was a heck of a year.
It's my favorite year in movies.
Is it?
Yeah. Fight Club. There's a lot of good stuff there.
I was gonna say, I like that. It's my favorite.
You've already listed a lot. Blair Witch Project is a lot. It's a great year for movies.
I love the note. It sounds like such a film bro answer. 1999 is my favorite year for movies. Yeah, Fight Club.
I was just trying to throw one more.
Just like that's it. That's the one line. That's the one line. That's it.
It's a good list. I don't know. There's
Green Mile's also there.
God, what am I trying to think of?
Austin Powers.
The first one? Second one, right? The first one? That was like 97.
First one.
Okay, fair enough.
Wait, no. Spy Who Shagged Me is 2. Yes.
Right.
Yeah, first one's Austin Powers International Man of Mystery.
Right. That's 97.
American Beauty was around a lot. That won a lot of awards, but I don't like talking about that one. So, yeah, but it was pretty big year for movies. But anyway, so despite all of that, a relatively, at that point, untested, unknown director comes out with a movie. And like, I would say very much that like word of mouth is a massive, massive thing.
And the twist was preserved in a way that it does not happen.
Like, yeah,
anymore.
I didn't know what it was.
You saw it on video and didn't know. That's crazy.
Months later. And like, thing is like, it made $26.6 million its opening weekend. So you want to talk about a movie that had legs and a movie that got like propped up by its word of mouth. Like, this is almost the definition of it. Because like 26.6 million now, if an M Night movie that cost like, 100 million made that now, it would be seen as like a large failure. But like this movie just had the legs and it went and it went and it went. And so it genuinely was a phenomenon, like a phenomena, whatever you want to call it. Like it caught on, people got hooked, everybody wanted to see it. It was pretty nuts that like, and so this is 99, I'm 12. So like I'm 12, 13. And so I didn't quite necessarily get it, but I was like, man, so it was very much a thing that permeated into the culture in a big way and turned M. Night Shyamalan into a household name basically overnight.
Yeah.
Like after Sixth Sense, everybody knew who M. Night was. You've got, so we can continue on now, but yeah, it really did jump in a big way.
After this movie, there's Unbreakable, we'll talk about in a minute, but then Bruce Willis is in Bandits, Hearts War, Tears of the Sun, the whole 10 yards. That's where the slump comes in, maybe. Maybe it's after this. Maybe Sin City is more the resurrection movie, but just trying to desperately defend my position earlier.
Dude, we've moved on.
And
we're all
I clearly
now.
have not. Andrew, who gets the Mark Strong Award in The Sixth Sense?
This is a tough one. Because I think you got three people at the top.
Yes.
Could all make an argument for all three of them.
I was about to, I was putting my notes together before we hit record, and I was going to go through and put down a Mark Strong Award and Best Scene for all of the movies. And I was like, you know what? I'll figure it out on Mike. But I think for this one, I have it locked in. You want to go first? You want me to go first?
I would like you to go first this time.
I think it's Haley Joel Osment. Because, for one, we've talked so much about kid performances and how they've got sort of a different scale we measured on. Okay, look, you mentioned Star Wars Episode 1. If Jake Lloyd was in The Sixth Sense, it would not work. No.
I'm not playing that game. I'm not doing that. That's mean. He's kids.
Oh my God. I'm not. Andrew, the fact that Haley Joel Osment is so good is the secret sauce to this movie, is what I'm saying.
We don't need to shit on Jake.
We
don't need to shit on Jake Lloyd any more than has already been happening in this time.
Look, we talked about Jingle All the Way. We talked about Jake Lloyd. We like the guy. Yes, it sucks what he went through. I'm not trying to pile onto that. And you don't have to.
And yet.
I'm not. Okay. If a lesser kid actor was in this role.
Look, if Danny DeVito was in this role, would it have worked? No, absolutely not.
It would have made twice as much in the box office. Are you kidding me?
$2 billion movie.
What I'm saying is, like, this is the moment where Haley Joel Osment's performance, you don't go, that's good for a kid. You go, that's just a damn good performance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yes.
it's in such a way that he still feels like a kid. It doesn't feel like a kid acting like an adult. It's just really good. It's so rare to see that from a child's performance. And he's at the center of the movie. He is the kid with the sixth sense. And he has to be fearful of the ghost and what's happening to him. He's got to try to fit in with other kids and get bullied. He plays a lot. His relationship with his mom, which is just, it's so good. There's so much about this movie that isn't talked about often because the twist is so overpowering and Bruce Willis is the ghost the whole time. But like him and his mom has nothing to do with Bruce Willis or the twist. And that's like the heart of the movie and the ultimate resolution. I mean, the movie, people think about the twist as the ending, but I'm fairly certain, I haven't watched this movie in a few years. It was one of my pandemic rewatches. I think it ends with him and his mom in the car. I think that's the last scene in the movie. After you find out about Bruce Willis, you have him and his mom in the car, and he's finally able to tell her what's happening, and they connect, and it's an incredible moment. Anyway, yeah, he's my Mark Strong Award. Those are my reasons why. Apologies to Jake Lloyd for catching a stray. I mean no offense by it.
Offense taken. No, I think this is a great pick. I feel like this is kind of I don't know. This feels like the place you have to go just because of what he's expected to do in this movie. So I will also be going with Haley Joel Osment as the Mark Strong for this. In that same regard, I'm not, I'm not going to backhand Bruce Willis. I'm not going to do it. I won't play your game. What
if someone? How would you backhand Bruce? Well, you can't just tease that. Like you said, there's three people up for it. I mean, I assume you like Bruce Willis's performance.
Yeah, but I don't know that if it's as like I don't like. I believe there are actors who could have also played that role and done it extremely well.
Sure, okay, that's fair.
That's kind of what I mean. I think that I don't like with Osment. I don't know that there's a contemporary that immediately comes to mind as somebody who could step into this role in the way that he does. With Bruce Willis, I'm sure I could come up with some people.
Yeah.
Because the role does have depth and it does have some range to it, but it's not kind of the linchpin of the movie like Osment is expected to be. So it's a difficult place for any actor to be in. The fact that he's a kid that is, I mean, literally 10 years old when this movie is being made, like that's insane. So I think, it's a really great performance, and that speaks to him. And man, he's another one that didn't do a whole lot after this. Still pops up here and there, does things occasionally, but definitely shies away from the stuff, from big spotlight type stuff. And you know what?
He shows up in The Boys. I saw him there. I saw him in what's that Kevin Smith movie that you hate? Tusk.
Is he in Tusk?
Yeah, he's
blocked that movie from my memory.
Co-host of the podcast.
Yeah, it looks like he's done a lot of television lately too. So he's out there doing his thing. Good for him.
All right. Well, let's talk about some Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis is very good at being quiet and reserved. And when I think of his performance here, I think of him being silent and like looking pensively, whether he's contemplating about his wife, whether he's staring at Haley Joel Osment as he tells him his secret. Like, it's a great quality to have for, he's a child psychologist in this movie. That ability to like speak to a child as not as an adult, but like with respect and not speak down to them. He's very good at that. I love the magic trick that he shows Haley Joel Osment with the penny in his hand, and he transfers it to his other hand and then his pocket and then back to the hand it started in. It's so corny, and Haley Joel Osment doesn't fall for it at all. He's like, it just stayed in your hand the whole time. He's really good at that. And yeah, I don't know. It's Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
One of his best performances in his career. We talked a lot about Bruce. Of course, this podcast, Recently on Glass, but yeah, good stuff.
I agree. Sorry, Liz was asking me about dinner. Yeah, we talked a lot about Bruce Willis. We don't need to go too heavy back into it, but yeah, he's still a very big guiding force throughout this movie, and his last great performance.
Oh,
I think he was after this. That's
Sin City is pretty good.
Sin City is
first Sin City.
Yes, and admittedly, yeah, the first Sin City is pretty good.
The first Red's pretty good.
I don't know that I'd say it's like a classic performance, though.
I mean,
it's very good for what it is.
Sure.
Yeah, just trying to think like genuine, like
prestige type role. Yeah,
prestige type role. Yeah, but anyway, not just backhanding everybody at this point.
I know, like why you gotta make it so? Why you gotta frame it like that?
Well, I get weirdly melancholy thinking about Bruce Willis now, and I just the dude was struggling for a long time, and it was very clear. So,
fair.
Anyway, great performance here. Definitely plays well off of Osment, and the movie is all the better for it.
And then Toni Collette, one of the most overlooked actors in Hollywood. She's fantastic in everything, and often doesn't get her flowers. As we have just done on this very podcast, when people talk about The Sixth Sense and great performances, they get to her last. But she is so good in this movie.
Extremely.
She has this role as a single mom where she is just struggling to connect with her child, struggling to not get angry at him because of what she perceives as his behavior. Things like taking her mother's pen out of her drawer, opening up cabinets. Then in her mind, he just lies about it because he can't tell her the truth that there's freaking ghosts around messing with stuff. And dude, that scene in the car at the very end, I'm gonna go ahead and jump ahead and say it's probably my favorite scene in the movie. It's what I'm gonna pick right now. Where they're sitting in traffic. He says that someone died. He says how he knows that happened because he saw them walk by. And then he just finally tells her that he's been talking to grandma and she's the one that takes the pen. And she, through him, answers Toni Collette's question that she asked at her grave. And just by the nature of that, he knows a lot more than he should. She is able to believe him and let go of so much anger, and they cry together in the car. It's hard to talk about, like getting emotional. It's so damn good. And of course, Toni Collette is a huge part of that. She's half of that scene, along with Haley Joel Osment. Yeah. So
I got to agree. I think that's the scene that sticks out the most in my head. There's a couple of scenes, like the scene where like he actually kind of uses his powers for the first time and kind of figures out what they're asking him to do
at the wake.
Yeah, at the wake where like he finds the tape where the girl like shows the dad that the stepmom was poisoning her and stuff. Like, that's really, really good. Obviously, the reveal of Bruce Willis being dead the whole time is also really good. But that scene right there in the car, it's good stuff.
Yeah, I love her anytime she shows up. Little Miss Sunshine, she's great. Knives Out. I mean, she's so good at Knives Out. It's just that movie is like stacked with great performances.
Hereditary, obviously, recently got her a lot of flowers from snobby film fans. But no, I'm just kidding. She's very good in that movie, admittedly. Extremely. Yes. And so I think at the time, I think she's kind of entering a phase now where people tend to being a little bit more appreciative of what she brings to the table. But yeah, for a long time there, it felt like she was pretty underrated, and her contributions here are like painfully underrated. Like you said, everybody thinks about Bruce Willis and Haley Joel Osment with good reason, but she's right up there, also pulling a lot of weight and does a fantastic job.
We ready to talk about Unbreakable, Andrew?
I mean, we already kind of talked about Unbreakable. Do we talk about it again?
I mean, yeah, we could dive into it a little bit. I mean,
we're gonna be here for hours at this rate, Chris.
Listen. We gotta dive in a little bit to some movies that we don't have an episode dedicated to. Unbreakable, it's also very good. I guess we did kind of talk about it. I mean, it comes out a year after The Sixth Sense. There was a lot of expectations, and at the time, it kind of seemed to fall short, but the movie's popularity has only grown over time. I remember hearing like the word on, like I remember, again, I relate all these movies to my parents talking about them because it's the age I was at the time. But
Yep.
I remember like they were renting it and like, oh man, I've heard like the twist like blows Sixth Sense out of the water and stuff, and that's how kind of how it was set up. So this big twist, but as we've discussed, well, here's something we need to track actually throughout this, Andrew. Which of these movies have a twist ending? The Sixth Sense, we can all agree, twist ending. Yes?
Yes. Yes.
I say Unbreakable is not a twist ending, which we talked about briefly. You disagreed. Here's what I'm going to say. A twist ending reframes the movie so that when you watch it a second time, the scenes are not a... Man, okay. You watch Sixth Sense the first time, the movie presents itself as if Bruce Willis is alive. You watch it the second time, you realize that presentation was false. You see it differently. I'm trying to think of the most condensed way to explain what I'm trying to say here, but that's the best I can do right now.
Would you not say that watching Unbreakable the first time, you don't see Samuel L. Jackson as a malevolent force, and the second time you do?
The scenes play exactly the same.
Do they, though?
Like, yes. Like, we understand, we learned something about him. He seems more manipulative the second time, but what we're seeing is it's Bruce Willis and his powers, the Samuel Jackson, like it's the. I don't think it's twisting. Look, I'm a spoiler village because I had an episode about that. You watch that movie the first time, you think you're in the 1800s. You watch it the second time, the scenes you were, I don't know, lied to the extreme about it. Like it's just because we learned something about a character.
You think that the Unbreakable is not reframed at all, knowing that Samuel L. Jackson is being a villain the whole time. Unbreakable is not reframed at all, knowing that Samuel L. Jackson is the one who caused the train crash. Are you genuinely saying that? Because if you are, I don't really understand how you can think that. I don't understand how you can think that.
Are you gonna say any movie where like you find out someone's a bad guy at the end? hang on.
Okay, because you don't know Samuel L. Jackson is the villain throughout that movie. You do not know that. It is revealed at the end he caused the train crash. That absolutely reframes the movie. I don't know how you can say the scenes play the same, because they don't. His motivations are completely different at that point. At that
They're
point,
not.
he's no longer...
The motivation's the same the whole time. He's trying to convince Bruce Willis he is a superhero. The motivation is a little deeper, we realize by the end, but like it's this
there's a complete,
it's all plays at face value.
No, it doesn't. It absolutely doesn't. And this is ridiculous. I can't believe you're making me do this. Right in front of my crab rangoon. I can't believe you. But no, because that's not true. Because yes, he's trying to convince him he's a superhero the first time. The second time, you know he already knows. Because he survived the train crash. Samuel L. Jackson already knows the entire movie that he's got powers.
No, he doesn't. No,
yes,
he
does.
No, because he
survived the plane crash, the train crash. Nobody else did. Samuel L. Jackson already knows.
Think about how dejected Samuel Jackson is when he learns about him almost drowning and the car accident he was in as a high schooler. He's like, damn, maybe he's not a superhero. And he's like, goes into a depression until he finds that comic book at the store and he, remembers about everyone having a weakness. And then he finds out he lied about, it's revealed to him. He's still throughout the movie not convinced he's a superhero until the very end.
I don't know what you're talking about. Like, it absolutely reframes the character.
Does Knives Out have a twist ending, Andrew?
No.
I'm going to answer for you. Knives Out does not have a twist ending, but you learn that Ransom, I'm spoiling Knives Out, Ransom's the killer. That reframes every scene you saw with him. The scene at the diner, you realize upon a second watch.
So you're saying Unbreakable is a murder mystery?
I'm not saying that. I just don't think just because we learned something about a character at the end makes it a twist ending.
So why is Sixth Sense a twist ending? Oh, you already explained this, and you're just not applying the same logic to both movies. It's fine. If you want to be a hypocrite about it, that's your decision.
You are,
because knowing Samuel L. Jackson caused the train crash reframes his motivations that entire movie.
It doesn't change the scenes you watch throughout the movie. You watch The Sixth Sense.
The Sixth Sense scenes don't change. They're
They
the same
do.
fucking scenes.
Whenever you're making me edit a lot, Andrew. A scene starts.
I said we already
listen.
talked about Unbreakable and we didn't need to do this. You did this, Chris.
The Sixth Sense. A scene starts as Bruce Willis sitting in a living room with Haley Joel Osment's mom.
Yes.
You assume they've been having a conversation. You assume that she thinks someone's there.
Yes.
That's not the case. He's dead. You watch that scene the second time, you realize what you're seeing is completely different.
Yeah, and when I rewatch Unbreakable, I see that Bruce Willis is talking to a mass murderer, not a wide-eyed man trying to see if superheroes exist.
He's a wide-eyed man trying to see if superheroes exist both times you watch it.
Yes, and then the second time adds that he's a mass murderer. Do you think that
And
doesn't
that's a twist
reframe the
ending?
scene at all? Oh, no. It's a twist that you find out he caused the train crash. I'm telling you that knowing he's a mass murderer reframes the scene. His motivations are different at that point. He goes from being a wide-eyed person trying to prove this to a ruthless madman.
We're going to agree to disagree here. We're going to put a pin in this because we have to
you're
move on with the
wrong
podcast.
is what you are.
That's fine. So far, I've got one twist ending. You've got two.
Two?
On our tracker. Let's talk about Signs, Andrew.
There's no
his
twist
next
in
film.
Signs.
Not a twist ending. I agree. Okay. Let's get back on the same page here. I like this movie. I like Signs a lot. I did not see this one in theaters. I do remember watching it the first time at home by myself. And the scene where Joaquin Phoenix is in a closet watching this home video of a boy's birthday party and an alien walks across the screen first time. Freaky as hell. I love that scene. Go ahead and jump ahead. That's my favorite scene in the movie. Also, Joaquin Phoenix getting my Mark Strong award here. M. Night, especially up until this point, has the tendency to have these very subdued characters with some quirky dialogue. It's a strange thing. So far in his career, it's a hit with everybody, but it would go on to be a complaint people would have off and on throughout his movies. But totally works here. This movie is so weird. Characters are so strange. But I like it. And this is one, I wouldn't say people are like hopping off the M. Night train, but I hear a lot of people bitch about this movie.
It's not at the level. It's not at the level of the ones before it. That was kind of what it was. People thought
It made a ton of money, though.
It did. I mean, Transformers made a ton of money, man. But,
I'm not saying that's a mark of quality. I'm saying people were still coming out to see it.
People still were. I think, but like to this point, he's 2 for 2 as far as most people are concerned. This is the one where I think there are some people who would say this is when the cracks start to show. They think it's not as like cohesive as his previous 2 efforts. I would agree that Joaquin Phoenix is the Mark Strong. Because I'm not talking about the star of this movie.
I know. But even cutting him out, still a lot of great performances. You have 2 great child performances. Abigail Breslin and Rory Culkin are both killing it.
Either way, and the scene that you point out, that's it. That's the scene too. So we're on the same page here. Yeah, this is the one that was like, because like I said, I this is one where just paying attention. The ending is cathartic in a way. But yeah, it's not a twist. And like, if there is a twist, though, like it's halfway through the movie when, oh yeah, it's actually aliens. Like that's if there's a twist, that's
yeah,
it. And that's not a twist. That's not
right.
That's just like, oh, it's that thing everybody thought it might.
Yeah,
be.
just revealing something isn't a twist, Andrew.
I'm gonna need you to not do that this whole episode, or I'm gonna turn this off. I will not quantify my feelings for the enjoyment of your weird fantasies. I already made my point clear, and I'm correct. But anyway.
Okay. Signs. It's good. We're both giving it a thumbs up. The Village comes next. We have a whole episode about it. Go back and listen. You want our Mark Strong and best scenes. We're still in thumbs up territory from me. We got a whole streak of movies we covered here. Lady in the Water, The Happening. The Last Airbender brings us to the next asterisk. I've never seen it. You've never seen it. It won't be part of our rankings. It probably ranks pretty low based on reputation. We won't be watching that movie
Oh,
until...
this isn't my rankings. But
Oh, did you rank it anyway?
yeah,
Well,
it's last.
Fine. I can throw it there too because I've never seen it.
Anyway,
episode 500 of our podcast. We will watch
500.
that movie.
You heard it here.
After Earth also has an episode, and that brings us to The Visit, the beginning of the resurrection of M Night Shyamalan. So we did touch about this as we were providing context for M Night Shyamalan. Didn't dive into the movie too much, and this is one I will, I'm kind of still in M Night mood. Excuse me. I'm still in an M Night mood. It's harder to say than I realized. And this is one I think I'm going to be going back and rewatching because I think I've seen it twice. I know I saw it in theaters. I think I might have watched it one more time, but it's been a long time. It's been like since it came out. But I really like it. It's solid. That's the movie that comes, the word that comes to mind. Like, yeah, that's just a solid movie. It's not doing anything that's going to elevate it to some of the earlier movies we talked about already, but it is. I don't know. I keep saying the word solid. It's a solid story.
It's solid. It's and that's
twist
the thing,
ending.
like,
Twist ending, right? Twist ending.
Twist ending. Yes.
Okay.
Twist ending. So, but I agree. Like, it's weird. You keep saying solid, but like it's a good effort after a seeming streak of several not good effort, or effort was made and it just didn't quite land. Like, this was just, he scaled it back way back. We're looking at a budget of $5 million that he financed himself. Like, just went out and made a movie, and he just had to kind of really, it had to be solid in order to work, and it succeeded. It was, yeah, it is a good effort. Makes a bunch of money, kind of puts him back on people's radar, kind of gets him back into the studio's good graces overall. Yeah, it's good.
I don't know where I'm going with the Mark Strong here.
I don't either.
It would probably require a rewatch for me to really lock this in. My gut tells me it's going to one of the kids. You have Olivia DeJonge, I think it's how you say the name, as Becca, and Ed Oxenbould as Tyler. I remember the boy being pretty funny. I like his little rapping. That's weird and funny. And then she was much more serious. She's the one trying to make this documentary. If I could split a Mark Strong award too, it'd go to both of them. I don't know. That's where my gut is telling me. But obviously, the grandparents in the movie play an important role.
Increasingly unhinged. They do a great job with it.
Yes, especially Nana, who, is very kind and caring, and slowly like unravels throughout the movie until you get to that good twist ending. Was this the twist you were able to predict, Andrew? Do you remember? I did not. I'll say that. I saw it in theaters. I was, when the twist happens, I'm like, man, that was good.
If it did, it was just like a passing thought that I didn't give a whole lot of like credence to, like, just like maybe they're not the grandparents or whatever. But like, yeah, and then like it's another thing that you realize that like the mom never actually sees the grandparents, things like that. So that works out too. Also, Catherine Hahn, obviously she's not in the movie a whole lot, but obviously we love her. Fantastic. Another alum of the Benoit Blanc universe, much like Toni Collette. But yeah, I would feel like the kids are kind of the Mark Strongs in a push, just because they're kind of given the most focus and they have to play off of everything happening. And I think they do a great job with that.
He follows that up with Split. Of course, we covered Glass, so we did touch on this movie a bit. And I shared some of my thoughts that, while I still give it a thumbs up, I don't think I like it as much as most people. Got some weird, icky issues with some of the themes. It's another one that I need to rewatch, though. I only watched it the one time, so I should probably go back and check it out. Mark Strong is obvious. I think we discussed that already on Glass. It's James McAvoy as everyone that he plays.
Kevin, Dennis, Patricia, Hedwig, Barry, Orwell, Jade, the Beast.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like he just puts like an actor's reel into a movie, like
pretty much.
Look, I can do everything. Watch this movie. Pick a character.
Yeah, basically. It is. It's like I said. This was the one where a lot of people were like, "Oh, this is the return to form." Like, The Visit was like solid, but people were like split. Oh, the man is back.
Yeah.
Now,
hang on. No twist ending.
Not within the large narrative of the film. If you want to argue that revealing it's in the Unbreakable universe is a twist, that's fine, but that's not like Sixth Sense or Unbreakable.
I'm not saying this to get under your skin. That's just a reveal. It does not reframe the movie you've seen. You watch the second time, I don't think anything.
Yeah, there's nothing within it.
Yeah.
I think, well, I don't know, because knowing it's in a universe with other things that have superpowers, that doesn't change what's unfolding with the Beast and Kevin and all of that. But
right.
It does reframe the universe. But whatever. Not a twist in the sense that people assume M Night does twists. Yeah, this one's I like it. Like you said, we touched a little bit in the Glass episode just about, some of the troubling themes, and I know there's a lot of people who really I think if you don't like this movie because of that, that's completely valid. Obviously, there's a greater conversation about the presentation of mentally unwell people being dangerous and how that is not okay. I think that's another valid point, so I'm not going to argue anybody's dislike of this movie. It's not something I feel. First off, I'm not an expert on any of those topics, so anybody that is dealing with that is going to have a far more greater insight. But additionally, just the notion that I don't feel that strongly about the movie either. So it's not a movie that it's not a movie that if somebody were like, well, the presentation of mental illness, I don't know enough to argue in favor of it, and just on a far lesser level, I don't care enough about the movie to argue any of that. So,
do you have a favorite scene? Does anything jump out to you? I'm kind of struggling to come up with. Because
I love the reveal. Like, it's such a cheap shot, but I love the reveal scene at the end. It's so subtly done, and it's
where he starts climbing on the walls and stuff.
No,
the David Dunn
scene.
Sure, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess you know what? Yeah, that's my favorite scene in the movie. That's easy.
Yeah, and it's just because it's so well done. It's so subtle. The movie is just this ramp up though, and it's just this interesting story. And I mean, when you get to the final, the Beast scene where they're shooting him with a shotgun and doing things like that, and he's still, charging forward. I was like, man, this is pretty intense. Intense like Boy Scouts, as our friend Doug would say. But overall, yeah, just that finale is probably what jumps out to me, just where he's bending the bars. You're actually seeing the Beast kind of unleashed, because you kind of don't really see that full insight until the end when he's actually unleashed. So the movie's basically all building to that moment, and I think it does a pretty good job making the most of it.
Follows it up at Glass. We covered that this past week. Got our thoughts out there, but we agree that does have a twist ending, right?
Yes.
All right.
Glass does have a twist ending?
Yes. I say yes. Yeah. Because the first time you think you're watching a doctor try to help people, the second time you realize that she is not trying to do that. She's trying to do something else. And she's not. Yeah. All right. We got it.
Just like Samuel L. Jackson in Unbreakable.
He's trying to do the same thing. Just the motivation changes. But what he's doing is at face value, whether you know.
Anyway,
the truth
folks,
or not.
next is Old.
All right, so next two,
film.
Old and Knock at the Cabin. These are two that I did not see until this month. Watched all these M Night movies. I wanted to keep watching more. I wanted to fill in my gaps. I watched both of them back-to-back nights. Very different from one another. Let's talk about Old first. Old is one that I remember that trailer, and it shows you the concept of the movie. You're on this beach. It ages you rapidly. That's all I knew when I finally got to watch the movie. That's still all I knew about it. But I did know that the reception of this movie was mixed. In fact, I think it holds a 50% on Rotten Tomatoes. I think it's right down the middle. To me, Old is like the quintessential M Night Shyamalan movie. This is where he should be living his entire career. This is where I'd expect his career to go after the string of early hits. I could see him going from The Village to Old. It's like this high concept, it's weird. I don't think there's a twist ending here. We can debate it if you disagree in a minute, but it is so committed to this weird thing, and like some people are going to be vibing and on board, some are going to be like, I'm out. I talked to my brother about it. I was like, hey, I watched Old. Have you seen it? And he was like, oh, I turned it off. Like, the acting was so bad and weird. And, like, he was saying these things that didn't register to me at all as I watched it. I like the movie, by the way. Thumbs up. But it's just, M. Night doesn't make movies that are for everybody. It's like, it's almost like an anomaly. Those early ones were hits with wide audiences, because that's really not the kind of movie that he makes. But yeah, I like, those are my overall thoughts. I like Old. Andrew, what say you?
I
about
liked
this film?
it. I liked it overall. I think I don't know. I feel like I think if Glass is a twist ending, Old is a twist ending. Because like they're taken to that beach on purpose.
But
you don't know that at the beginning.
I think
like that's the whole thing.
I think
like,
you know that.
Nobody's
You think
taken
you don't know that?
Nobody.
You're not suspicious of them that drove them out and sent them on their way, and then like they're. I guess you don't know. Yeah, you know they're being watched. You keep seeing this glimmer, and they know. This is kind of a tough one because I feel
okay, I will say that there's obviously intrigue throughout. That people obviously know they're at the beach, but you obviously don't know what it is exactly that's happening. So you could probably argue it both ways. It's not like Unbreakable, which is a clear twist ending.
my God, Andrew.
It's
I think I watched the movie very recently. The hotel guy is like, they give him those cocktails made specifically for them, and he's like, hey, you know what? I don't do this for everybody, but I'm going to send you to this beach. And they get driven out there and abandoned and can't leave. I've got to assume the people that put them on this beach knew they would be trapped on this beach.
Yeah.
You know, so like, I don't know. We don't know until the end, like exactly why they're doing it. But
that's
like,
true. So it's more of a reveal in that regard.
I think
you get the frame.
So.
Everything that's happening is just whatever. Yeah, I get it. But that's the thing. Like at the same time, like I know when Old came out, there were people that were like, "Up, M Night up to his old tricks," and I was like, not really. Like, anyway, I saw Old. I don't think I saw it opening weekend. I think I saw it. When did this come out? This was July of 2021. So where was I living at the time? Oh, it was when I was in my fancy apartment. So I did see this. I don't think I saw it opening weekend, but I think COVID was still, I don't know if COVID, yeah, I mean, this was July 2021, COVID was 2020. So like COVID was still a thing. Movies were still kind of getting limited releases and we weren't seeing a whole lot of them yet. But I did go and see this and I thought it was fine.
This was actually filmed in 2020, like filmed in the height of COVID. Everyone flew out, I think the Dominican Republic, I'm trying to remember, quarantined, and it was like this closed set, just everyone involved made this movie, never left, and then when it was done shooting, everyone disbanded. And
everyone was that many months older, so the movie's actually a documentary.
I think there's no COVID cases, so pretty impressive production all around.
New Zealand did.
Another thing, God, this movie, we talked a lot this month about how visual M. Night Shyamalan is and how interesting his camera work is. And this one, like, cranks it up to 11. Camera's, like, constantly moving, doing these weird things, and it's so interesting. It's like trying to decipher what is being said with the camera movements and the long shots. And it's, again, it kind of goes back to the thing I was saying at the beginning where, like, this is the quintessential M. Night movie. Some people are going to be very distracted by these weird framing. Some people are going to be, like me, trying to figure out what the message is. And I was vibing with this movie. I was on the wavelength. I'm struggling a little with Mark Strong just because this is such an ensemble. I really like, Gael Garcia Bernal. Is that how you say his name? The dad. I like the movie Babel. I remember him from The Science of Sleep, which isn't a movie I like, but I like him in it. Just a very cool, suave guy with a fun accent. I like him a lot.
Also Werewolf by Night. I don't know if you saw Werewolf by Night.
I did not. He's in that. I need to go watch it.
He is the aforementioned Werewolf by Night. And he's very good there. I would probably go with him as well, just because he's got to kind of center that whole thing as like the increasingly like as things like increasingly get unhinged and go off the rails. And man, talk about a movie that's just like
bonkers.
This thread of chaos through the whole thing, as like these kids that are like, 6 and 11 are just are like these children that just start appearing older throughout the whole thing, and just like, man, like it is wild. Like just the lengths that movie ends up going through, and man,
there's a pregnancy in this movie.
Oh man, like
that was so insane. Like, so he has this concept where like you age rapidly on this beach, and I think he explores everything you can do with that in the course of this movie. Right? From like the psychological trauma, there's a surgery that happens, but the wound keeps closing because the cells are aging rapidly and healing. So you have to hold it open. You have the pregnancy, and then like the baby can't survive because it needs so much nourishment so quickly because it's aging to grow its body so rapidly. Which is such a dark, horrible concept, but it's handled as well as you can do that. I do want to shout out Alex Wolff, who plays Trent, the son. Obviously, a lot of actors play him as he ages throughout the movie, but I think he gets the lion's share. Wikipedia's telling me he plays the 18-year-old version, but he plays like a range and he's the one that is the dad of the aforementioned pregnancy and has to play a lot of emotions there. As far as favorite scene, Andrew, there's a scene in this movie that is burned into my brain, and I will never be able to forget it, even if I tried. One of our characters, let's see if Abby Lee plays Crystal. That's the one. Wikipedia says she's a trophy wife. We learn that she has a vitamin deficiency, and she is without her medication throughout this movie and aging rapidly. She goes to hide in a cave because she's vain and losing her looks and developing a hump on her back. The kids end up in the cave with her, and they're using a lighter to see who's in there, and she's getting angry at them for lighting it up so they can see her. So we get to look at her. She's got this big hump on her back. She lifts up this rock, and it falls onto her hump and breaks it. But then we learn that since she's aging rapidly, her bones heal in the wrong position. She starts crawling after these kids, but the rocks are breaking her arms as she crawls, and then they heal crooked, and then she starts thrashing from the pain, constantly breaking and healing her arms, ends up in this pretzel. It's just jarring. Like, this is like full horror. It's bonkers. See, that scene was wild. But you have scenes jump out to you, Andrew? What's your favorite?
Well, you just summed it up there. That one can't escape my brain. So obviously the pregnancy scene is pretty also some real kind of nightmare fuel at the end of the day. The scene where Guy kind of passes, another one of those like kind of, because they're kind of like, they're going through a separation, and so they take him to this resort as like a final family vacation, and like, so it's Guy and his wife, Prissa, played by Vicky Krieps. I'm not sure how you say that. But I forget what, like, anyway, like, so there's this kind of final scene where like he realizes that this is the end, and they're just kind of sitting on the beach, and it's a very kind of heartfelt moment where, obviously this took a turn that neither one of them were expecting.
Yeah.
And I think he does a really good job in that scene, as does Vicky. And man, Rufus Sewell though is so creepy in this movie and like so unhinged as he goes through this. There's like,
yeah,
and that's the thing, is like for a lot of these people, you don't know what throughout the course of the movie, the afflictions start to appear, like, because they don't have their medications, or if they do have their medications, they're obviously not super effective because wherever they are is aging them super rapidly. So like Rufus has clearly got, I don't know if it's implied that it's like a dementia or something like that, but he just starts getting increasingly uncomfortable to watch because he's basically like gets super paranoid, and it's like he's completely, which is like a completely valid thing to feel in this moment too. Like being super paranoid about what's happening and why this is going on. And so everybody in this movie is doing a pretty great job with what is on its surface a very wild concept. I had a friend that really liked this movie because he almost saw it like a stage play, because it's so centered on that beach, on just that beach location.
That's what I say about The Hateful Eight. I like that movie more than most, I think, and that's one reason. It's just this one location and this slow build of a. Yeah, I like that movie, and I say the same thing about it.
Yeah, so I think that's it. And he's like, this is easily something that like I could have, like, we would have devoured a play like this when I was in high school or something. I'm like, yeah, they never would have let you do it. But it's pretty wild, but there's a lot of great performances, and so overall I go into the thumbs up territory for this one.
We should probably talk about not the twist, I would say, but the late stage reveal as far as why the resort is putting these people on the beach to age them, because it happens so fast. It's like the last 10 minutes of the movie kind of speed runs this. Personally, I think I would have still liked the movie if it was like a phenomena and we never found out the details. But I'm okay with the reveal as well. Essentially, the resort lures people that have physical ailments or diseases
or mental ailments. It's pretty straightforward. All these people.
They give them a medication that they are hopeful will treat their affliction, put them on the beach, and they can see how effective it is over the course of a lifetime, which normally that would take literally a lifetime. This way it takes a day. So it rapidly advances the testing of pharmaceuticals and drugs. It is such a... I was going to say bleak, but I don't know. It's the idea that if we had this magical beach, we would immediately exploit it for... I mean, they talk like it's an altruistic reason, but I see it as it's for money. I guess that's up for interpretation.
It's one of those things that even if your motives are altruistic, you are still essentially marching people to their deaths for the sake of the greater good.
Innocent people too, because it's the greater good. Because it's not just the sick people that end up on the beach. Their families do, who are, I mean, they're all innocent.
Have nothing to do with it.
Families really have nothing to do with it. Yeah, they're just a byproduct as far as they're concerned. So it's pretty...
and it's not like they leave them there for like a couple of hours to whatever, and yank them before they catch on. Like, they leave them there.
Yeah.
And the intention and the implication is very much that everybody that goes there dies there.
Yep.
And then they have their information and then go on. It's one of those things where, like, even if they're pretending it's altruistic, I wouldn't even necessarily say it was for money. Like, you can go into this with the noblest of intentions. What you're doing is still wrong.
Yeah.
Because you are marching, like, you want to sign people up for trials and say, hey, this might help you, it might not, but this is going to be the end. That'd be one thing. But, like, even then, that's still problematic in many ways, because our treatment of disabled people in this world is still quite poor. On all fronts. To me, it really doesn't matter if it's altruistic or not. The result is still barbaric and draconian, and you lose any sense of moral high ground when you just drop families with kids and everything on beaches to die.
Yep.
There's probably
All right, Andrew, knock at the cabin. The most obvious Mark Strong award, other than Split, right? I mean, we have to be in agreement here.
Yeah,
Dave Bautista, 100%.
Dude,
yep, rules. We're both big fans, as I'm sure we've talked about in the podcast plenty of times.
Big
Dave.
Another Benoit Blanc alum. So
we texted a little bit after I watched this movie. I mean, I think he's easily the best pro wrestler turned actor. I can't imagine many people would argue against that. Just as far as like talent, box office would be somebody else, but he's so damn good at this. Not just with the qualifier for a pro wrestler, he's just a damn good actor at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Is this his best performance?
Yes.
I gotta agree.
So I like Dave Bautista a lot. I think I like him in most of the things that he's in. I remember when they were what am I thinking of? I remember when Blade Runner 2049 came out, people were like, "Oh, Dave Bautista is really good in this," and I'm like, "Yeah, he's in it for 4 minutes."
But he is
like,
really
it's not
good.
enough. He's very good, but like, people
Yeah.
were like trying to, and that one was one where I was kind of like, eh. And then there were people. What was the other one? He was in Spectre, and I saw a lot of people that were like, "Oh man, Dave Bautista is great in Spectre," and yes, he is, but he doesn't even talk in Spectre.
Yeah,
Like,
he just has
it
weird
was. He was getting
thumbnails.
this attention for roles where it was so limited and so small, but people were like, "He's so great." I was like, "He is," but like, this isn't like transcending or anything. He's in the movie so short, or he's just like Inspector. He's just kind of a dude that has to look menacing and can do that real well. So more recently, like, he started getting, and there's things hidden throughout all this where I think he does a really good job. Obviously, Guardians is 14. He's got a variety of different movies in there of all different genres. I actually really liked Stuber, the movie he did with Kumail Nanjiani. Not going to win any awards, but I enjoyed watching those two and their chemistry together. And obviously Dune more recently, but he's part of a massive ensemble in Dune. So Knock at the Cabin, like, one of the first times that I think the camera is really on him in like a prestige kind of drama front and center.
Yeah.
He tends to be part of ensembles a lot, which he's very good at. Like, he's great in Glass Onion. Obviously, I've mentioned, he plays that role like perfectly.
Yes.
What needs to happen there. Obviously, all of his roles as Drax, he's great. I never am sad to see Dave Bautista on my screen, but I think this is the first movie that may have actually given him the chance to kind of be front and center in a dramatic setting. There's almost no action in this, no real classic sense of action in this movie like a lot of his other films. There are obviously some tense moments and a little bit of action, but this really just puts the focus on him. And it could be make or break. Like, this, if he wasn't great, this movie would be in a much different place, but I think he crushes it. He knocks it out of the park.
I agree. It's the first movie to really rest on his shoulders. But he also probably needed all of those bit parts to get to a point to be able to play this.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's gotten better over time. Good. Yeah, God, love David Bautista. Best scene. Gosh, this is a tough one. First of all, I really like this movie. A lot.
One of the few M Nights that is not an original concept. This is based off a book.
Yes.
Called The Cabin at the End of the World, by Paul Tremblay. I wasn't the biggest fan of this book. I did go read this book.
You read the book before the movie came out? I know you read a lot of books.
After.
I'm sorry.
I read it after. Because I saw it and was kind of like, oh, I'm curious how the book does this. And it is
there's significant differences. I mean, I did not read the book. I read the Wikipedia to look at all the changes. And
it's very different.
Yes. I do want to point out Old is kind of based on a comic to the point where they say based on the graphic novel, blah, 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 blah. But really it's like the concept of a beach that ages you is the only thing brought over. And the characters and the reveal of the pharmaceutical company is all M. Night. But another one that is kind of starts, with a seed from something else. Knock at the Cabin.
So he doesn't do it a lot.
Yeah,
doesn't do a lot. Right. Obviously, Last Airbender.
After Earth has a Will Smith story, but
it's a Will Smith story, but that's still it's not an adaptation.
Yeah, sure.
With that, it's Last Airbender. Obviously Old, if we're kind of following that line, and then Knock at
the Cabin.
So he doesn't do it a lot. Done it a little bit more recently. I believe Trap is an original concept. I believe that is back to OG Pictures there. But this is probably the first, like Last Airbender, and then with, like I said, Old is kind of playing on the fringes. But this does change a lot, because I was also very curious about that. And it is there are a lot of changes. And so I was curious to go back to the book, and #PP, I thought it was really boring.
Oh, interesting. I wasn't expecting that.
It's very slow moving. It gets going occasionally, but there's just these giant stretches where I'm like, get to it already. Like you're kind of just waiting. It's so much setup that you're like, it's not offset by the catharsis you get in other moments. So, but yeah, there is some massive differences though. Massive changes.
We'll talk about them.
Yeah.
We'll talk about them in a second. Watching this movie reminded me a lot of 10 Cloverfield Lane. So you have an extreme personality, we'll say, holding people captive, and the reasoning that they give for it sounds insane. And both you, the audience, and the people being held captive don't know the truth. And as the story unfolds, it can go 3 different directions. 1, the insane thing they're saying is happening is actually happening. 2, is that person is crazy and the insane thing is not happening. And then 3 is the story leaves it ambiguous, so you don't know if they were telling the truth or not. So the entire movie, I'm like, which way is it going to land? And I think there's probably a satisfying story to be told with any of those endings. But this movie, I guess, and 10 Cloverfield Lane go with the crazy thing is actually happening. And it's pretty definitively happening. But I think the movie does a good job drip feeding you the information and doing enough so that you have doubt and you can't really get ahead of the movie. You might have a guess, but you won't know for sure until the very end and the final reveals. I like the... I don't know why I've dragged 10 Cloverfield Lane into this now, but I think this movie, I think it's pretty ballsy to go with it's actually happening. 10 Cloverfield Lane, I don't know if revealing it's true really adds anything to that movie. It's the one kind of lingering. I like that movie a lot, but like I don't know how I feel about that ending. But I like that they go there here. It's fucking, pardon me, wild. Whenever, let me pull up my cast list here. Gone through so many M Night pages on. I think it's
Jonathan Groff, Ben Aldridge.
Yes, Jonathan Groff. I was trying to remember which daddy it was. Daddy Eric, who's finally like, it's happening. They're the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and he goes there. I'm like, what? Like the fact that we can get to a place in this movie where he can just say that, and it's like, wow, they are. It is like that. It's so bonkers that they go there. And it totally works. Another thing I kept thinking is like, I heard this thought experiment once where it was like, if you were a dog, in a house and you knew the house was going to blow up, how would you get the family out? How would you relay that information? Or it's like, if you knew about 9/11 and traveled back to September 10th,
how do you stop it?
What would you do? How do you stop it? Yeah. And that's what the position we find out these 4 characters are in. Like, they know the apocalypse is coming. They have to convince this family to sacrifice one of their members. Go. What do you do? How do you do that? And like, they are just earnestly pleading throughout the movie. And it's, like, I don't know what more if I wasn't, God forbid, in that position, I don't know what the hell else you could do other than like try to reason, your hardest to reason. And like Dave Bautista plays that so well. Like from the very beginning, he's like, these people aren't my friends. Understand that. You seem like very nice people and I hate what I have to do. And that's this melancholy. He's so torn up about it throughout the movie and plays it so well. He's this giant physical force, but never really resorts to using that unless he absolutely has to. Which is the strength of Dave Bautista, that he has so many more tools than just his giant form. I really like
which he still can use very effectively.
Yeah. Drax is a great example of like kind of using all those tools.
Drax is a great example. There's a Die Hard ripoff that he's in that is not a great movie, but I still love it. I forget what it's called. It's called Final Score. Yeah, so it takes place in like a soccer arena, like during a soccer match, and Dave Bautista's in it, Pierce Brosnan is in it, Ray Stevenson is in it, and it's one of those very much like direct-to-video action thrillers, but You got Dave Bautista and Ray Stevenson just fighting each other this whole time, and I'm like, I'm gonna watch that. And so even in stuff like that, Dave Bautista like still shines and does a great job. And this movie, like I said, I love that they put him on full display and gave him a mostly dramatic role where he looks like he does still look like he's about to burst out of that shirt. The whole movie, though.
He's so big.
He's just a massive person. But you know, just the notion of what he's doing, I think he's perfect casting for that character. Even having read the book, I think he was great for that. And I understand and endorse some of the changes for film from the book. You know, not too deep into it, but
let's spoil him, Andrew. Come on.
All right, so in the book, their child Wen gets caught in the crossfire of a gunfight and dies. But the twist is because she wasn't a willing sacrifice, it doesn't count as far as the sacrifice goes. So the book ends with Eric and Andrew kind of being like, well, doing the Thelma and Louise, just grab each other's hands, drive on down the road and take this as it comes and just be together through whatever happens. Whereas in the movie, we very much do no, this was real. And Eric's sacrifice stops it from happening. So the book and the movie both present it's real.
Right.
Like, I think they both present the stories like what's happening turns out to be real. In the book, though, because their child is the one caught in the crossfire, they both basically say, nah, we're not playing this game. If there is a God who doesn't think our child getting killed in all of this is a suitable sacrifice, we're not going to play that game anymore. And so they just kind of leave together and kind of are like, we're going to face this, whatever it is, together. And in the movie, it's very much Eric sacrifices himself and it stops. And it is the final scene of the movie is just kind of really like, man, just kind of leaves you staring at the screen for a minute, just like, whoa, like it was all real and now it's not. And, you know, they kind of missed all of it by being at the cabin the whole time. And just wild. This movie is another one that's just wild. It's a concept that I can see why he gravitated towards.
I love the end is so dour, but like in the flashback, we see the entire family bonding over driving out to the cabin, listening to Boogie Shoes on the radio and all dancing to it. And then like at the end of the movie, the sacrifice has happened. They're just silent. They get in the car and they turn it on. And that song comes on the radio. And they immediately turn it off because it cuts through. Like
it's too much.
Dance, we can't laugh, and then like eventually decide to put it back on. It's a nice, sweet little moment that's really necessary to add just a little bit of levity to the end of this movie. So the book, I mean, it kills a kid. Horrible. Glad that's not on screen. In fact, friend of the show, my wife, did not want to watch this movie because she knew what happened in the book. She's like, I am not watching that. I watched the movie. I read what happened in the book. I was like, hey, I think you can handle the movie. It's different. They don't kill the kid. She's like, okay. So I think she'll eventually come and watch it. The book is like, she dies. That's not good enough for God. Screw this God. How could he ask us to do this? It sounds like there's some ambiguity in the book, but like that seems like a definitive statement about God. Whereas in the movie, Eric is a willing sacrifice, and I don't know how the family feels about a God that requires a sacrifice like this. I think that's kind of left on the audience to chew on, which is interesting. I mean, this movie gives you a lot to talk about and think about afterwards, which is great. Stacked with great performances. I mean, we praised Dave Bautista at the very beginning. He's the obvious Mark Strong Award, but just because he's so good, not because anybody else is not good. We talked about,
of course,
Jonathan Groff as Daddy Eric. I am going to say Daddy every time. I'm so glad we get to show him some praise here because he's an alum of the show. We talked about him back on the Matrix Resurrections, and we weren't the kindest to him. I mean, his performance isn't bad, but he's playing Agent Smith.
He was kind of put in an impossible position.
Yes.
I feel like we weren't hard on him necessarily, but we were kind of hard on the circumstances that he was having to play with.
Well, he's great here.
Do so
I love
much
him
when you're given that. Yeah. He is great here. He's obviously a we probably talked about it. He is an alum of the theater. Roles in Hamilton, Spring Awakening, all sorts of things like that. He is all over the place now, kind of surging up slowly. Was Kristoff in the Frozen movies, and has obviously tons of stuff in the works, including apparently going to be joining the Doctor Who verse.
And he's in Mindhunter, which is a fantastic show on Netflix.
That is never going to resolve.
Very sad.
Very sad. But yeah, he's great, and he's great here. It's odd. It's odd seeing him play like a sympathetic character because most of the stuff I see him in, he's like, I kind of don't like him just because he's playing like either it's a bully or like a mean person or somebody where I'm like, not sad at what's happening to you. In this movie, you're genuinely like, oh, I am sad that's happening to you. How dare you be such a good actor that now I care about what's happening to you.
Ben Aldridge as Daddy Andrew, also very good performance. I love this peeling back the layers of this character. Like, we find out early that he has a gun, which seems a little strange. Then we find out the trauma that he's gone through and the reasoning behind it, and him trying not to be a victim and deal with his trauma. Like, it's a lot is revealed about this character throughout, and he does it so well. He has this anger at the surface throughout most of the movie, and just has to let it go by the end when he makes the sacrifice. And I believe Jonathan Groff and Ben Aldridge are both openly gay men playing a gay couple, which is great and should be celebrated. In a perfect world, maybe you don't need to cast a gay person to play a gay character, but in a world where that is something that keeps you back in this industry, by God, the least we can do is give these roles to openly gay actors. So I'm glad that M. Night was able to do that here.
Yes, I agree completely. It is. I know there's people that'll rush and be like, well, it's acting. And it's like, yeah, but like, we straight people have enough roles to go around. It's fine. We can handle this. But Ben Aldridge, just another one that's kind of boiling his way up. He was on that Pennyworth show as Thomas Wayne, apparently.
Oh,
have any idea? Didn't realize that, but he is doing a great job here. Like you said, that anger that he has boiling under the surface is kind of done extremely well. I think like I said, I think his performance here is very, very good. Like you said, you don't want to. Dave Bautista gets all the attention, but almost everybody in this movie is bringing it in some way or another.
Yeah, I guess we don't need to go through the whole cast, but they're all great.
Ron Weasley is in this movie. It's wild. Like, it's crazy. Like,
yeah, I didn't realize that until afterwards. Like, I'm not a big Harry Potter guy, but obviously I've seen him as the character.
Yeah.
That's he seems
he's a lot
to
more
be
choosy with what he does than some of his other compatriots from Harry Potter. So he kind of really picks and chooses. But he was in the M Night Shyamalan TV show that he did for Apple. So I'm guessing that's how he ended up on his radar and kind of brought him into this. And M. Night specifically pointed to Blade Runner 2049 as being the reason he was super interested in Dave Bautista starring in this movie. So I guess, what do I know? Apparently it is a transcendent role. So
no twist ending here, right?
Not really.
We knew this was a possibility from like the beginning.
Yeah.
It's just revealed the future. So
really.
It doesn't reframe anything you've seen. By my count, let's see, how many? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 movies we discussed. I have 1, 2,
13. Are you including Last Airbender or not there?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we didn't discuss Last Airbender. 13 movies we discussed, not counting Wide Awake. Last Airbender's in here, in my list here.
So there's 12 movies, actually.
Right. But I was going to say 1, 2... I'm going to assume Last Airbender does not have a twist ending. So I count 1, 2, 3, 4 twists endings. I assume you count 5 twist endings out of this.
Not the majority.
No.
Not the majority by any means.
Not that, people, the far less than his reputation would imply that he relies on twist endings and does it all the time.
I guess when your like most famous movie of all time is like one of the greatest twist endings of all time, you suddenly become the twist ending guy, and there's nothing you can really do to shake that. But yeah, it's pretty wild that like it's this entire thing that he's dealing with when it's like, no, it's not really his thing. He's just kind of a guy that makes movies. They tend to have a lot of similar themes and stuff like that, but there's not really a lot of twist endings. And of the twist endings, I think most of them work. I don't know that there's one of the twist endings that... So, as far as what we're calling the twist endings, you're saying Sixth Sense, The Village, The Visit,
Glass,
and Glass have twist endings. So, The Glass is the only one I really don't care for, just because of how it ends up informing the ending of the film.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think, like, in a vacuum, it's a bad twist. It's the only one I really don't care for, just because ultimately what ends up happening. So anyway, but yeah, he's made 14 movies. Even with my definition, 5 have twist endings. So
what is your definition?
Barely a third.
What's your definition?
I'm not doing this.
I said mine.
I'm not doing this.
It reframes the film.
No,
I'm not saying. I'm not bringing it up to argue with you.
Your reasoning. I agree with your reasoning. I just think Unbreakable fits that reasoning. You don't. Like, your definition, I think, is a fine definition for a twist ending. I just think Unbreakable fits into that definition.
Okay. Okay.
I really don't want to do this. I really don't want to do this.
It's fine. Let's move on. Let's rank these movies, Andrew.
Yes.
I guess we're ranking 12 because we're not. Well,
I had Last Airbender.
Last Airbender's last. Okay. Should we go bottom to top, top to bottom?
I say bottom to top.
All right.
So I want to actually document your list concurrently with mine. So hold on. So if you hear me typing, people, I apologize.
Are we going one at a time, or do I go through my whole list first?
Oh, I say each number. I think we rank each number and we discuss together what our picks for that number are.
All right. Well, number 13, Last Airbender, if we have to rank it.
Yeah,
but I've never seen it. Doesn't seem fair.
I took it off my list. I just know it's at the bottom. So.
All right. So 12. I think we're in agreement here. I think Lady in the Water. I
actually put After Earth at 12.
Wow. Wow. Oh, already. My reasoning. Look, we're a hashtag Positivity podcast. I don't need to keep proving that to anybody. We did episodes on these. I praise things I want to praise. Lady in the Water. This sounds extreme. It kind of makes me angry. It upsets me, the things I don't like about that movie. I think it fundamentally doesn't work. I think it's miscast in places. I think it has so many issues that it's hard for me to even see the good version of that movie. Like, I can't just tweak a thing or two and then it comes out good. Like, I think it just fundamentally doesn't work. I'm not saying, like, some people disagree with me. I saw some surprising
super fans
people liking the movie in the Discord. That's fine. But that's really the only one I hear that gave me full on negative reaction. Like, I don't enjoy this. It bothers me. It upsets me on some level. So that's why I ranked it last. But you went after Earth.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with that. But it has Paul Giamatti in it, so it wasn't. And he's trying so hard.
He is.
He's trying so hard in that movie to carry it. So that gave, because I was looking at the bottom and I was like, and so After Earth for me is just a movie that I struggle so much while watching it to just remain invested in what's happening on the screen for pretty much the whole time. And so, like I said, hashtag PP. You guys, we know we have almost 200 episodes. Soon to be 500, where we talk about this. I can't, give us some slack on this moment to be a little negative if you don't mind. But After Earth to me is just, I can't pay attention to it. It's just so, for a movie about a concept as wild as we have explored the galaxy and have come back to a post-human Earth 1,000 years later, I cannot believe how boring that movie is.
I'm mostly agreeing with you. Like, I have a hard time remaining engaged with that movie. It's insane how it's not more interesting just by accident with the action scenes. I think in a vacuum, there's a few good action scenes and things I like, but on the whole, I agree. It's just a bit boring. I just found
Lady in the Water to be
like the critic thing like upset.
It's so bad. It's so not good. I'm not disagreement there at all. Which you'll be not shocked at all to find that my number 11 is Lady in the Water.
Sure, yeah, okay, makes sense.
It's the next one, so don't worry. I'm not dark horsing Lady in the Water up the list here. Not that there's anything wrong with doing that, but so it was a battle for the bottom between those two.
Sure.
So so I'm in complete agreement with Lady in the Water. It only gets an edge for me because I had
Paul
a weird
Giamatti
soft spot
factor,
for Paul Giamatti trying so hard to make all of this ridiculous nonsense work, and he gives it everything he has. That's all I can say is he really, really tries.
At number 10 is a movie that ended up ranking a little bit.
What's your number 11?
Oh, After Earth. I'm sorry. Yeah.
After Earth. Okay.
We just sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So all right. So we're moving to 10.
A movie that ended up ranking lower than I expected after we did an episode on it. The Happening.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's me too.
There's scene to this movie I really, really, really like.
Yeah.
Doesn't work all together. We talked about the miscast. We have a whole episode on it. I think, we talked about it.
We get it. You get it.
I almost want to like it more than I actually do, but I still think it gets more hate than it deserves, and it's worth a watch for a few key scenes or performances. All right.
I don't know if I'll endorse that, but I agree with the general.
Watch the intro. Watch the first 10 minutes. It's crazy.
It is pretty crazy. It's another thing that just the setup is so interesting, and it's kind of amazing that you're mostly just watching these guys run through a field for most of the movie. But yeah, it's just like you said. There's just base issues there that I just can't get past, and there's cool, haunting concepts, but it just never quite gels all together for me.
All right, I think we're about to diverge. Number 9, what I have on my ranking is Split.
I have Glass. You put Glass above Split.
I need to rewatch Split. I will flat out admit that.
You put Glass above
Listen
Split.
to me. I struggle to think of things I like in that movie other than his performance. It's great. I struggle to remember a lot of that movie, like in detail. I've talked about the things that really bother me about it. I know I need to rewatch it, but I'm not motivated to rewatch it. I don't feel like I need to go rewatch that movie. We'll talk about Glass in a moment. It's coming up on my list. But yeah, I guess Split next. You got Glass.
Yes, I have Glass at number 9.
Okay.
Or I have. So you put Split at 9. Sorry, and I put Glass at 9. Yeah, the wind gets taken out of my sails in this one so bad that I just can't. No, I can't put it higher. So.
Well,
sir.
I agree with what you just said. Number 8 on my list is Glass. The end of that movie is a huge sucker punch that it hurts the movie a lot. I will say that I've had time to think on it and reflect on it, and I think no matter how many times I rewatch that movie, it's not going to move any higher on my ranking here. But I respect that M. Night has his vision for superheroes in the real world. I think he kind of felt it had to end the specific way, and I can see his reasoning, even if I disagree with it pretty strongly. I'm specifically talking about David Dunn dying. I can see a world like Mr. Glass dying. I think is almost inevitable. Him dying and his plan carrying on after his death, I think is a very Mr. Glass ending. Yep. Fine with that. The Horde, I could take it. I don't know. He's a villain, so I can see him dying. I can see him living because he's kind of got this redemption. I don't know, but I just can't get over. It just seems him dying just so we can have this explanation of a cult. I think you could have your cake and eat it too there. I think he could live. I threw out my quick rewrite at the end of that movie. Not saying I know better than M. Night Shyamalan. He created this entire world, and that is so much more impressive than me coming in after the fact and making a small change. So I don't want to sound like I have all this hubris, but I I think he could have worked on this a little bit more and found a way to not kill the character. Because other than that, I like a lot about what this movie is doing. I like the concept. I like the therapy, and I can even deal with the fake out this organization. I think it can be seeded better throughout the movie. But yeah, it's not perfect. It's pretty low on my list. But there's enough there that I like that's going to elevate it above Split for me. Maybe it changes when I rewatch Split. We'll see.
Okay, so at this point, I'm going to say that I've got After Earth, Lady in the Water, Happening Glass. Everything else now, I largely like at this point, from this point on. So if movies are ranked low to you at this point, understand that at this point, I'm pretty much liking all of these things, which means that I have number 8 as old. I like it.
Okay.
It's a little bit lower than most of the enjoyment I get from most of the rest of these.
Interesting.
I do like it, but it sits at number 8 just because it is on the lower end of the things that I would actively seek out with an M Night movie. So we are diverging at this point, not heavily, but somewhat, because my number 7 is Split. So not too far removed from where you have it at. So what's your number 7?
If I were to draw a line on my list, like I like the movies above this, I really can't endorse the movies below this, it's right above The Happening. So The Happening, After Earth, Lady in the Water, it feels weird to say this on our podcast, they're not good movies. That's my feeling about them.
They're not, and I do not enjoy watching them. That's kind of, if I want to frame it in a nicer way, it's like, I don't want to say you're wrong for enjoying it. I won't say that, but just I do not get enjoyment out of watching these.
But your line would be above Glass, though, right? You would add that.
Yeah, because Glass. I know an ending shouldn't ruin a movie, but Glass's ending ruins that movie for me.
Interesting.
It takes the wind out of the sails so much to just be like, and they're all dead, and it's a secret society that you've never heard of before, despite the fact this has been a trilogy. Like, there's just too much with that reveal that just crumbles for me that I can't do it. So, but yeah, so yeah.
So your number 7 is old. My number 7.
8 was old. 7 was Split.
Oh, I should number my list because I'm getting confused. Let's see here. 12, 11, 10.
So number 8 for you was Glass.
9, 8.
You had Split at 9, Glass at 8.
Got it. 7? My number 7 is The Visit.
The Visit.
A movie I like. A movie I enjoy. Solid. I'll say that again. Above competent. I'm not sure, like, I could change anything to make me like it more. I think it nails its concept. It's just good. Just a solid concept.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. So moving on to number 6.
My number 6 is Old. A movie I do enjoy. I want to rewatch. I think there's a lot more to digest there. I've only seen it once. I liked it a lot. Like I said, the quintessential M Night Shyamalan movie. I think it's appropriate to be about the middle of our lists. You vibe with it or you don't. I vibed with it. It's good.
My number 6, and what might be seen as slightly controversial, is Signs.
Interesting.
I like a lot about that movie. I will not pretend that the personal issues I have with one of its stars do not play a factor in why it is potentially lower than it otherwise might be, but I struggle immensely to watch anything that man is in. And I will not speak his name.
That was your number 6, right?
Yeah, so we're up to 5.
My number 5 is Signs. And I think we're kind of in agreement here. I feel similarly. Signs is like, enjoyment wise, it's like old, but a bigger budget, larger scope in its story. I think it's a cool concept, a solid. I think I said it this month. Like M Night Shyamalan is a very earnest filmmaker. I think he gets dinged sometimes because things aren't very subtle, but I think he's not trying to be. I think he's like putting out front. And Signs is such an ultimate example of that. It's like, why is this? There's this weird quirk about the glasses of water. It feeds into the finale of the movie.
Yeah.
Same thing with the kid's asthma, and you know how it all comes together at the end.
What a twist! I'm kidding. We're not doing this. No.
Not a twist in it. But I like that. Like, to me, that's a cornerstone of satisfying storytelling. Is the breadcrumbs amount to something? Yeah. And Signs is a movie about that concept. Like,
yeah.
those things coming together in the climax renews the character's faith, which is an interesting take on that. I know some people ding this movie because they're like, if water killed them, why would they come to Earth? And like, you're watching the movie wrong. Like, their planet is so destroyed, they resorted to desperate measures. There's your answer.
I don't know if you people know this. Water kills us too.
That's a fair point, Andrew.
Like, if you go try to live in the water, you can enjoy it the entire rest of your life, which won't be long. Like, okay, touching it doesn't hurt us, but like, you can overhydrate and you can very much drown. Like, it's, we don't have ocean civilizations for a reason. You make the best with what you got.
The movie would not be improved by showing a scene of the aliens being like, their backstory and why they came here. Like, that is so not the point.
It's like independent. Like, I'm not saying that they're equal quality, but it's like Independence Day. Like, they're coming for resources. I don't really want to know their deal. I don't want the Independence Day prequel about the decline of the alien world and their need to wipe out other ones. I don't want it. Interesting. So number 5, you have Signs. Number 5, I have Knock at the Cabin.
Interesting.
So I like a lot of what's happening here. I just like some other stuff a little bit more. There's some heavy stuff here that I don't not like. Overall, I like Knock at the Cabin. It's just there is some stuff there that I don't know if it quite lands. There's a lot of great performances. There's just a few things that jump out to me. Similarly with the book, where there's moments where I'm like, all right, let's pick up the pace a little bit. They play the kind of, is it happening? Is it not? That's played up for a really long time. And I don't know if it quite all lands for me. But I do like it a lot. I was trying to remember how long Knock at the Cabin was. It is only 100 minutes, so it is lean in its runtime. So the fact that it still feels kind of long for me is definitely a problem. So that's the only reason it's not potentially higher on this list. So there we are.
Knock at the Cabin, number 4 for me. I think we're feeling pretty similarly about most of these movies, and we are well into like, I enjoy this movie territory.
Right.
I like this movie a lot. I mean, we just had a whole, little deep dive on it. It's not perfect. If I watched a couple more times, I might be able to get more specific with some of my criticisms. Like, it's it's very good and a big recommend. I like it a lot.
So my number 4, and I think this finally gets us to a point where we've ranked all the same things, and the only 3 left of the same 3 movies. My number 4 is The Visit.
Okay,
I like The Visit a lot.
A lot higher on your list than my list.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's tight. I think keeping that scope so narrow was a great move. I think it was great for telling that story. It's just a tight, lean story. Obviously, you can still poke holes if you want, just like why you send in your... Same time, though, like if your kids are growing and you're sitting on a plate, like you're not, like, she's talking to them, she's communicating, but like, whatever. I know there's people that'll poke holes in it. You're watching the movie wrong. But I do like The Visit a lot. I think it's just tight. I think it's lean. I think it does exactly what it needs to do. Low stakes, small focus. And if you're going to... It's that thing where, like, as the scope gets wider, it's harder to keep a control on everything. By keeping that scope super narrow, he was able to kind of really tighten that focus and make that, and it works. So I'm putting The Visit. You had it 7. I have it at 4. It's not that different, but yeah. So at this point, I think we have ranked everything. It seems the same 3 are sitting at the top. The question is, what order are they in? So,
well,
do you want me to lead off at number 3, or do you want to take your number 3 first?
You go. I've been leading the whole time. You do number 3.
This is a movie that, if being, you probably know where I'm going with this already. Being this high on this list is something that I know people will think I'm insane for saying. But rewatching it for this podcast, I was shocked at how much I liked it. I was annoyed that I'd let preconceived notions stand in the way of me potentially revisiting this earlier. And it's a lesson that, maybe the things that, we all enjoy different things. But number 3 for me is going to be The Village. I was very shocked watching it back. I was like, I knew the real world. It was the modern day. And just rewatching it back, I was like, I had a friend that was just like, it's just out of nowhere. And I was like, but is it though? Like, not really.
Not at all.
It's
not at all.
Not really at all. Like, and then people will say things like, oh, well, it's not enough clues. And I'm like, well, if it's enough clues that you see it coming, then that's also unsatisfying. Like, You don't want them like beating you. You don't want William Hurt pulling a cell phone out of his jacket and being like, call for help. Like, that just ruins the whole thing. So I liked this a lot. I was actually kind of surprised. I appreciate your campaigning for it.
Only took 10 years of friendship for you to finally watch it.
Easy. 12. But 12.
It's worse.
It's kind of like Logan Lucky. Just took me forever to get there, and then once I did, I was like, man,
really
good.
Good.
Stop doing this, Andrew. But anyway, I wouldn't be shocked if it's higher on your list, but I liked this one a lot. I am now in the village. I will defend the village. I am in the village of village defenders. And we're a strong village of dozens. But I like I said, I was kind of shocked at how much I enjoyed this. And like I said, like it was kind of wild to me. Like I was like, people like it's out of nowhere, and I was like, it's really not though. Like it's really, really not. And like I don't know that you'll figure it out before the finale, but if you go back and watch it after knowing that, it's all like going back and watching it, it's that thing where you're like, this. It feels like it's slapping you in the face with it. Like like at certain times, it's kind of like New X-Men when Zorn is revealed to be Magneto, and everybody at the time was like, "What?" And then you go back and read the book, and you're like, "Oh yeah, they were screaming it at me the whole time, and I still somehow didn't." See
I gotta reread that because I'm someone that felt like that was bonkers out of nowhere. So that reminds me, I need to go reread that very long comic.
I need to get a version of it because I don't own one anymore, and I'm debating on what the best way to do it is. But
I have the omnibus, which is convenient, looks nice, difficult to read because it's very thick boy, but
that's my only concern. They've gotten better at making the omnibuses thinner now, or I don't know what they're doing to kind of press those pages, but they've gotten better at making, because like, I'll see an omnibus is like 700 pages, and I'm like, all right, that's going to be a thinner guy. It's not impossible. But, like, they'll do an omnibus. Like, there's a Jack Kirby Fourth World omnibus. That's, like, 1,500 pages. It's, like, 5 inches thick. It's like, who's reading this?
It's insane. And you can't read it without damaging the spine. Like, you've got, like, 2 or 3 good reads, and then you've messed it up.
So almost everything I do now, I look for, like, they did the New World, or the Fourth World stuff as absolutes. They did 2 absolutes, and I was like, all right, I'll do that.
I love those.
Split it in half.
Yeah, Absolute Library Edition, those are rad.
Yeah, I have the libraries of Hellboy, and they're so nice. The cloth covers and everything, they're just so great. But anyway, not to get too distracted.
Okay.
But yeah. Anyway, number 3, The Village for me.
My number 3 might be, I don't know, shocking maybe.
You don't got to quantify anything here.
It's The Sixth Sense. It's The Sixth Sense. Yeah. It's a great movie. Right. It's very good. We've talked about it already on this very episode. What is there to say about The Sixth Sense? It's a great movie.
It's a great movie. Good stuff.
There's 2 other movies I like more. That's it.
I expected this. I was like, I think you're the way I know you feel about some stuff. I was like, this is probably number 3. So anyway, number 2 for me, The Sixth Sense.
Okay, all right. My number 2. I guess we're revealing a lot with our saying what our number 2 is. My number 2 is Unbreakable.
Oh, snap, folks.
Great movie. I love it. The
Village at number 1.
The Village is M Night Shyamalan at the peak of his powers. I think he took everything he learned from the last 2 movies and just crafted this beyond solid. I use that for The Visit. I use something better than that. Just fantastic story. I've got no notes to improve this movie. I think the performances are fantastic. As you know, I've always been a defender. I've always really, really liked it. I've always been like, why the hell is this movie getting slack, right? Revisiting it for this podcast was the first time I did in a very long time. And I was like, well, I'm probably going to see some cracks now, right? Going back, and I've always thought it's better than its reputation, but is it really that good? I rewatch it, and I like it more than ever. I'm like, this is so good. I mean, the performances really, this most recent rewatch, really stood out to me. I mean, top to bottom, Bryce Dallas Howard, Joaquin Phoenix, Sigourney Weaver, you name it. It's just absolutely stacked. It's so good. I love this movie. And I think this movie comes out, I guess I'll double back we're on number 2. Number 2 is Unbreakable, but The Village, that's my number 1. I'll double back on the Unbreakable. The movie comes out. It makes money. It gets this negative reception, mixed to negative, and M Night clearly like takes it hard and is upset with it. Whereas this is easier said than done. I'm not trying to psychoanalyze the man, but like I think he should have like embraced that and just realized that's the kind of filmmaker he is. You cannot be this singular of a filmmaker with this strong auteur vision and make crowd pleasing movies every at bat. You're gonna put some people off, like, and that's fine. Like, we talk so much about what Rotten Tomatoes really means. It's not a mark of quality. It's a mark of like how many people are give it a thumbs up and like it. And like his movies just aren't for everybody, and that's okay. That is a strength, not a weakness. And I think he's come around to this recent string of movies. I think maybe he has figured it out and can take criticism with a different mindset. I think, again, I don't know the man, but I think The Village was just like a sign of things to come with this man eventually, and he's come around to embrace it. But like I love it. Like yeah, it's my favorite. It's a great movie. I love it. Go watch it if you haven't already.
Well, okay, all right. Let me speak. But generally, obviously, I put Unbreakable at number one just because it's the one that I enjoy the most. Because that's how these work.
Yeah.
But The Village, and I will say this: I have not rewatched The Sixth Sense in a while. I just remember liking it a lot and thinking that it was super solid. So it may be that if I rewatch Sixth Sense, this order changes here. But I did really like The Village going back to it. I think it's one of those things that like I watched it and was just genuinely like, I don't get it. Like, I really don't get why everybody hates this movie.
Yeah.
And it's that other thing too, where kind of like I haven't gone as far as to start doing this yet, but I do kind of want to ask people, what did you want to happen? Like, what did you think was going to happen? Like, the movie builds really only to one conclusion. Once the creatures aren't real, something is keeping them in the woods. And it turned like there's still something out there that they're not supposed to see. What is that thing that you don't? Because like if it genuinely is revealed that like, oh, it's just other towns and we think they're full of heathens, like that would have been stupid.
Yeah, or like, oh,
that just would have been dumb.
The creatures aren't real. Oh, wait a minute, they are real. Like
there's other
that
creatures
would be
that are
horrible.
real. Like,
yeah,
that would be dumb too. So like, I don't know. And they'd probably say that like you should reframe a lot of it to make it work. I don't know. I thought the movie built up to that perfectly. And so I am very much in The Village. I like Sixth Sense a lot. I just like Unbreakable a lot too, with its twist ending.
Get the fuck out of here.
Sorry. Sorry. That was a softball. It was right there. I had to do it.
Look, I threw some at you earlier. It's fine. It's fine.
Yes. That's it. We're done. There's no more. We're finished there. But
okay.
I just really like Unbreakable. Obviously, it's a little bit of a bias just because of the comic book stuff. When I saw that as a kid, being a comic book fan, I was just like, man, this is awesome. I was like, the dude that did The Sixth Sense thinks comic books are cool. Like when you're a kid and the MCU's not a thing yet. That was just really cool. So there is an element of bias in there. I fully embrace it. It is just good. I like it a lot. It's been interesting doing this, just in a general sense, going back to watch these movies, because it really is interesting how he's got this reputation. And I'll admit, like, looking at my list, Knock at the Cabin, The Visit, Split, Old, those are all recent. Glass, the same. So a lot of the movies that are in the upper half for me are more recent, but it feels like they reached a point where he hit like The Village. And I can't necessarily blame people for like ejecting after, if you didn't care for The Village, then you got Lady in the Water, you've got The Happening, you've got Last Airbender, you've got After Earth. There's definitely a run there where I can be like, I get it. I completely get why you're kind of like, I'm done with this. But overall, I like it a lot. His filmography generally, like I think there's a lot to like here. I am shocked at how much I liked The Village. I am gonna actually recommend it. I think people.
I'm so happy it landed number 3 for you. I think I'll take that.
And I won't even lie. Like while we were discussing, I was still kind of like making some adjustments here. I was like, I don't know. I was like, I don't even just re-talking about them now. Going forward, I was like, I don't know about that. And so I think Eureka might have had The Visit at number 3 and The Village at 4. And I was like, nah, man, you like The Village more than The Visit. I was like, there's
Yeah.
no way. Like, there's no way you didn't like that more. And so, well, like I said, the top 8 of the 12 movies I like more overall.
Yeah.
So, like, we're looking at a filmography that at this point has more hits than misses. The 2 to 1, basically. You've got eight movies I like and 4 I don't. Well, 5, I guess, if you got Airbender. So you're still batting above 500 there. So, but overall, I've really appreciated going back and doing this. Some of these I have a higher appreciation for. Some I don't. Most I don't. But it is. It's still. And I said it at the beginning. Like, I'm still glad he's out there doing his thing. I'll be there to see Trap. I'm excited to see what the man comes up with. If it works for me, great. If it doesn't, I'm still glad he's out there doing it. There's just good stuff here. And man, The Village, I am on the side of that movie now. I completely get it. I appreciate it. So you mentioned though with The Village that's kind of what like broke him for a little bit. That's kind of where like he kind of like cracked a little bit, because like Lady in the Water is just so, I mean, it's probably one of the most subtle movies of all time. And so but I agree that he kind of should have leaned into that. And I think it's interesting you point that like he should have leaned into it, because I think Kevin Smith kind of has this similar problem where like there reaches a point where the returns on his movies diminish so much that he just kind of cracks, and he kind of just starts doing things despite the industry and like stuff like that. And there were fans that ate it up and kind of were on his side, but overall it just came off so, I don't even know what the right word is, but just it came off so bad to me, because I was just like, why are you letting this bother you so much? Like, you have your fans, you have your fan base. Like, why not just embrace that? And he kind of did. Like, at that point, he kind of did, because Kevin Smith just started making movies almost exclusively for that fan base, kind of circumventing any major theatrical model by and large. But yeah, it feels like more recently he's kind of, M Night at least, has leveled out. He kind of accepts that, not everything is going to work for everybody, and he just kind of rolls with it. The recent string of movies have all been varying levels of success, so he's back out there, and I like that a lot. And Kevin Smith did Clerks 3, so
I did you see Clerks 3? I didn't even see it.
I did.
All right.
I did.
All right.
It's equal parts interesting. Here's, not that this is about Kevin Smith. Clerks 3 is both impressive for the things that it manages to make emotionally resonant, and frustrating for the stuff that's lazy. It's a movie that is equally impressive because it still shows there's a little bit of juice left, and then it's annoying because it plays it so safe in other parts. And it's like, I think Kevin Smith has something there that he can say. He just hasn't gotten there yet.
Fair. This has been great.
Yeah,
I think we're done talking about M Night for the time being. We've done it a lot, but Trap, I think there's a good chance we'll get a bonus episode there, because I really enjoy talking about this man's movies. We'll see what the reception is, whether it's a bonus episode or maybe a proper episode of our podcast. And then, of course, episode 500 is going to be The Last Airbender, so we'll talk about him again then. But until episode 500, just remember that maybe not every movie is great.
But all movies have greatness.
All right. You ready?
Yep.
Let's count it up.
Yeah.
1,
2,
3,
4,
5.
6. Sorry. My bad. I was like 5. That's the end, right?